Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Kubeir, and this channel is all about Canadian immigration news, updates, things you should do, things you definitely should not. And I am back. I'm back after this, I would say, well-deserved vacation, but I don't know. Sometimes, have you ever felt that you need a vacation after coming back from a vacation? Because I am certainly feeling like that. But we are back here for another episode of our weekly roundup. This is where we will discuss whatever has happened in the last 1 week. Actually, nothing much has happened, but we will discuss about it anyways. Obviously, we will then discuss a few things which are pretty much of concern to a lot of people. And then we will go back to your question and answers. Now, if you have questions, and I can see a lot of you are already posting your questions, so please hold them back till we get to the question and answer session, and then we can take them head on. Starting with our stream here. By quote of the week, time goes away and leaves us with only one of these two things, regrets or results, and it is entirely on you. You are the one who's going to decide what did the time leave you with, regret or with results. So how you choose to spend your time is something which will make a huge difference as to what you would do with the regret or the results that you face, but something to keep in mind always. This is our weekly roundup, and the topics of discussion will be PNP updates, other news, and question and answers. For the PNP draws, we will start with British Columbia, who is our usual suspect. On the August of 10th, they have invited more than 155 candidates to apply for provincial nomination. Most of these candidates were from targeted categories, including the tech occupations. So the tech draws continue with British Columbia. But mind you, with BC, what you need, except for one stream, which is the international graduate stream, you need a job offer for all their other streams. And there are very strict criteria regarding, or rather around, the eligibility criteria of the employers. Now, you don't need an LMIA for this, not for all jobs at all. But what you do need to do is your employer needs to prove, first of all, your employer needs to be eligible, then your employer needs to prove that this is a genuine need of an employee. Manitoba also has conducted a draw this week. They invited 345 candidates to apply for the provincial nomination across three different streams: skilled workers in Manitoba, skilled workers overseas, and international education stream, which obviously does not read any score. Of these, only 86 candidates had profiles in express entry, which basically means once they will receive their nomination, they will get the 600 points and be able to apply an express entry. All the remaining will have to apply, once they get the nomination, will have to apply through the non-express entry route. Saskatchewan. Well, Saskatchewan has been pretty active, and it's nice to see, actually, because it is one province where a lot of you have pinned their hopes on, because this is the only province where a lot of you may have an option. Otherwise, there is no option for you if at all you're waiting in express entry, because here they do give you the allowance for the age. I mean, even with the age, like for example, in this particular draw, they have invited 745 candidates in express entry and occupations in demand. 433 were invited in express entry and 312 from occupation in demand, and the lowest score was 68. So basically, even if you were over the age of 35, even you were the age of until 44, and you had 10 years of work experience, you have master's degree, you scored CIB 8 in English, which most of you can, then you would have still been eligible in this particular draw. As far as the knock codes are concerned, these are the knock codes that have been invited, and we see a repeat. So these are the knock codes that have been repeated. I think consecutively over the last 3 or 4 draws now from Saskatchewan. Great news for retail supervisors, retail managers, food services. I can see food services there as well. I see technical sales. I see a couple of IT knock codes which are otherwise never ever invited by Ontario. For example, Ontario never invites 2171. They don't invite 2281, 2282. These are the computer technicians or user support as well. 2171 business analysts are also not usually invited by Ontario. So Saskatchewan, great option, or rather fallback plan if you want to call them. So if you're eligible, absolutely go to Saskatchewan website, create your profile. It's not complicated. It doesn't take long. Make sure you have an active profile at all times on Saskatchewan. 68 is a score, which is excellent score, rather quite low, to be very honest, given what they have been doing in the past few weeks or months, rather. Going forward, can we expect a lower draw? It's very difficult to say that because every single time they will choose multiple NOC codes. That basically means there are so many people in the pool, which basically means the scores will remain high. But yeah, depending on which knock codes they choose, you could expect to see 67, and depending on the knock code and how many invitations, probably 66, but I would be very doubtful. 68 pretty much is it. You could also see a 67, to be very honest. I would actually, yeah, I would actually say that 67 is quite a possibility, but it depends on which knock code, how many invitations. But this is great. I mean, I love it. Love the fact that Saskatchewan is going with this. In other news, Canada is having a very low unemployment rate at this point of time, and they held it steady at 4.9% in July. They have decreased, or rather, the employment in Canada has decreased by 31,000 jobs, which basically means 31,000 people found jobs in the job market. The job losses are strangely concentrated in the services sector, which basically means that there has also been a cut down in the job. At one point of time, I think about last month, there were more than 1 million job vacancies, but it looks like that number is now coming down. And from the growth angle, the reality is that the employers are having trouble finding employees. And if employers cannot find the employees, then it's obviously going to be a big difference on the economy, big difference on the growth sector, big difference on the commercial sector as well. But the good news is that there are nearly 1 million jobs. So if you are coming to Canada, you should not have a problem finding a job. Hot topic now. This is always a hot topic, right? I mean, sometimes I don't even know. Even if I don't have a topic, this is always going to be one topic which will always have a great interest amongst everybody. So what we will do is look at this one instead. Score distribution for express entry as of 2nd of August. I know we have done this on repeat. I know nowadays actually most of you already know what it looks like, and how we can project or predict or speculate how it will go. Sean Fraser said it gradually, so we are stuck with the gradual number or gradual increase of invitations. He said the invitations were going to increase by, or rather, he didn't say, but he just said gradually. So far, Ircc has been increasing the invitations only by 250 increment, which basically means if they go with a 250 increment, then the next draw should be in the range of 20 to 50 invitations. And if that 20 to 50 invitations are issued, that would probably be on the 17th of August. That is the next prospective date for the express entry draw. Fingers crossed, of course. And with that, what do you think? Okay, I want to see on the comments. I want to see some more comments as to what do you think would be the next express entry draw. Pour in there. Let's have this discussion. Okay, let's understand, what do you think this is express entry pool? Which way is it going? Which direction is it looking like? Because I've said it plenty of times. I mean, it's like me playing the same broken record all the single time, and it doesn't sound good. Let's see what you have to say. In my opinion, if there is a draw size of about 2,250, I don't see the scores dropping quite a lot. The last draw was at 533. Was it 533? Was it 532? What was the score? 533. Yes. So if the score was at 533, I expect that the draw size, or rather, if with the draw size of 2,250, you can expect a score of 529, 528. That can probably definitely more than 525. That's my anticipation. I'll tell you why I'm not looking at a very big drop, and I'll give you my calculation as well. But in the meantime, we have Akash Patel, who says 520, Saurabh says 525, Umesh says 523, Kairia says 529. Yeah, pretty much that's what I was thinking as well. And the reason why I'm expecting that the draw to remain, I mean, especially if the number of invitations are only at 20 to 50, is because this range of score between 510 to 530, that is where majority of the people are all clubbed together. And the reason for that is, this is where a lot of people, for example, if you are in Canada, right, you have 1 year of Canadian work experience, you can score CLB 9, CLB 10. Okay, you have a master's degree, you probably have a master's in Canada, you can very well fit into that bracket of 520s, 525, that kind of a score. So that excuse me, yeah, more scores coming in. 527, 527, 524, 519. I would be very happy to see it, actually, if we see a 519, but I don't think it's going to drop to that number at this point of time. It's definitely not dropping to 480. That's for sure, for sure. That's, you can absolutely. I mean, look at the pool size, right? Between 501 to 600, there are 8,975, which by now the number would be more than 9,000. More than 491, you have 5,000. So are you saying for the scores to happen, I mean, for the draws to happen at 480, they would conduct a draw size of what? 9,000 above 481, 5, 14, 8, 25, 28,000? No, my friend. When you make these speculations, you should also have something to back this up, right? So again, as I said, 20 to 50 kind of a draw. I'm hoping it's 2,500 because the increment has to go up, right? That is something what we have to look at. I haven't heard of many people receiving nominations at this point of time from Ontario, so I'm not assuming that this range would be very high. This is going to be in the range of between 600 to 800. Don't see too many nominations that have come through. So with that number there, and with this, we don't know how many people have increased at this number, right? This pool is a dangerous one. We never thought 501 was going to look so difficult, so dangerous, so scary, but it is at this point of time. So let's see how that goes. All eyes on the 17th of August. Was it 17th of August? Yeah, 17th of August, to see which direction are we going to go with this draw. 20 to 50 is the expected invitations. 20 to 50 to 2,500. I'm hoping to 2,500. And with the score of about 527, 528, probably more than 525 for sure. Fingers crossed. Let's see how that goes. Right. That is basically all that I had to talk to you about as far as the weekly roundup is concerned. Do connect with us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, of course, and YouTube. And while you're here, do smash the like button. Let this video go out to more and more people. And of course, if you haven't still subscribed to the channel, then you most definitely must, because I'm not sure what else you're waiting for. Okay, now, the only one thing that I have basically on my agenda to talk to you, I didn't have much because, as I said, one, I was traveling. It's very, very hectic travel, as I said, and sometimes you need a vacation after the vacation to recover from the vacation. So I didn't really, obviously, pay a lot of attention to what was happening in terms of the subjects of concern. But there is one thing which has been creeping up a lot, and I would like to talk about that. And this is basically for the international students. We are in the month of August. 31st of August is the last date until which you can study online outside Canada and still be considered eligible for your postgraduate work permit for this period of study. Usually, for any period of study that you do not study in Canada, or which you're not studying in person, then IRCC may not give you the postgraduate work permit validity for that period. But because of COVID, they made the exemption. And that exemption expires on the 31st of August this month. Now, therefore, obviously, lots and lots and lots of international students are looking to travel to Canada this month. I know my niece is traveling. No, actually, two of my nieces, both my nieces who are also international students, they are traveling to Canada. My son, who's also an international student, he's already in Canada, he's already studying. So two of my nieces are also traveling within the next week or so. And I understand the anxiety that the international students have at this point of time. But for most of you, I would like to remind you once again, please make sure your medicals are valid. Make sure you have informed your college about your arrival date and that the fact that you have your visa. Please make sure you inform them. And the reason I'll give you for both. First of all, if you do not make sure your medicals are valid, then at the last minute, you might find out that your counterfoil becomes invalid for travel. IRCC will make your document invalid for travel, which basically means once you come to the airport, the airline may not allow you to board the aircraft. Now, even if you do arrive in Canada, let's say you've come to Canada, but your medicals have expired, the border officer now realizes your medicals have expired, they would still allow you to come to Canada. They would give you a study permit only for 6 months, which basically means after a period of 6 months, you would have to then apply for extension, which basically means doing medicals again, applying for extension, more stress, more headache. Obviously, you'll spend more money in applying for the extension and obviously getting all stressed about it. So yeah, it's not a good way to go about the things. So please, by all means, make sure your medicals are valid as an international student. The next thing about informing the college is that invariably, colleges obviously have limited seats, and there are always international students who are waiting for their visa decision. So in a lot of cases, what colleges are nowadays doing is they're accepting more students per class than actually the class capacity is, because they know that a lot of international students will either not make it on time, will get refused, rejected, or they may defer to the next intake. So if they do not hear from you in time to say that you have received your visas and you're coming to Canada, then they may actually give your seat to somebody else. And when you arrive in Canada, you will realize that the college is saying that there is no seats available because you didn't inform us. Now you defer to the next intake, and then you would be caught between the rock and the hard place, because you can't study, obviously. You cannot work because, as per the study permit regulations are concerned, then you have to be studying in order to be working. So you do not want to be caught in those two specific issues. Therefore, please make sure your medicals are valid, and also make sure that you inform the college that you're arriving on so and so date, and that your seat is confirmed for the college intake. Those are the two things. Third, very, very important, is when you do arrive in Canada, the study permit will be issued to you when you come to Canada. Now, depending on your college, depending on your program, you obviously may be entitled to a postgraduate work permit after the completion of your studies. But while you are studying, you are also allowed to work for 20 hours per week off campus, obviously full time if you're on campus, if you're working on campus. So your study permit should indicate the conditions that you are allowed to work as per the required study permit regulations. Please make sure that it does indicate that, because if it doesn't, if your study permit does not indicate that you are allowed to work for 20 hours per week, or whatever the conditions might be for a study permit, then CRA may not issue, not CRA, sorry, Service Canada may not issue your SIN number because you're not allowed to work. So therefore, there is nothing there. Or you may face problem later on trying to find employment or trying to find a job because your study permit doesn't allow you to work. Therefore, again, you would be running back and forth trying to get those conditions changed. So once you come to Canada, once you get your study permit, make sure in the last area, the bottom part of your study permit does indicate what the conditions of that study permit are, and that it does allow you to work part-time 20 hours per week. These are extremely, extremely important, and you must keep these in mind. But if you're coming to Canada, stay safe travels, and I welcome you to Canada in advance. And while you're here, please comply with all the requirements, all the regulations, all the criteria for your study permit to keep it valid, so that you don't face any issues with that at all. Excellent. Now, still here, haven't smashed the like button. I don't know what you're doing. Let's start with the questions. Okay. Pachel says, I have 1 year of NOC-B experience in Ontario. If I get PNP from any province, can I come back to Ontario after getting PNP and apply for express entry? And I need to apply in CSE. What is the way to get PR after PNP? I honestly have no idea what you're trying to ask me. Are you asking me about PNP? Are you asking me about CSE? Because you're so confused. You are getting PNP from any province, but can I come back to Ontario? If you have a nomination, then the province is expecting you to live and work in that province, right? So why are you coming back to Ontario after getting the PNP? And then you're applying for express entry, and then you are applying to in CEC. So honestly, I'm confused with your question. First, you need to get clarity as to what exactly is it that you want to do. I'm happy that Ircc extended postgraduate work permits expiring this year, but what about those whose work permit will expire next year and their CRS will not be more than 460? Please enlighten on this. Well, there are a lot of people who are saying, so what about the people whose work permits are expiring next year? Very soon you will have people who will say, what about people whose work permits are expiring in 24 and then in 25 and then in 26? I mean, IRCC is not going to continue giving these extensions to everybody and they have to stop at some place, right? It is understood that the market did rebound to a great extent from mid of last year, and therefore they have chosen basically to stop it until the end of this year. Now, if your work permits are expiring sometime next year, but then you, at this point of time, you have no other, you have no other way to get it extended. Postgraduate work permits cannot be extended. They are only being extended under this one-time special public policy. Even for those people whose work permits were extended last year, under the public policy, who now want them to be extended again this year, even they are stuck because they are not going to get any extensions anymore. If you are in one of those positions where you cannot get your work permits extended previous year, this year, next year, but your CRS is not going to be more than 460, well, then what you should be looking to do is looking for an employer who's going to support you in the PNP, because that is your only way in to get your pathway for permanent residence. If you cannot find an employer who will support your application, then I'm afraid you will not, you will probably have to then leave Canada at some point of time and return back. Okay. Kubeir, thank you for the super chat. Don't see a question. Same here, Divyan Patel. Thank you for the super chat. Don't see a question. Shashi says postgraduate work permit expired on the 19th of December. Applied for visitor record in 2021 November, and also for LMIA work permit on 17 December 2021. Visitor record approved in March 2022. Work permit refused in May 2022. I worked till April 2022. Did I work legally? Uh, okay. Now, because you applied for LMIA work permit on 17th of December, so you basically applied for a new work permit while your existing work permit was still valid. So under the law, under the technicalities of the law, you were on implied status, and because of this particular implied status, the conditions of your postgraduate work permit will apply. But you also applied for a visitor record in November 2021. Amazing. Your visitor record was approved in March 2022 and work permit was refused on May 2022. You worked till April 2024, 24. Wow. I mean, you really complicated this whole thing. But no, you did not work legally after at least after the March 2022 visitor record approval. Why? Because once your visitor record was approved, you therefore at that point of time became a visitor. The law as per the visitors is that you cannot work and you continue to work. So basically you were in the non-compliance of the Immigration Refugee Protection Act. So you were working illegally, especially after the visitor record was approved. Yeah, that would be the case in your situation. You were working illegally at least after your visitor record was approved. Thank you, Ankur Saxena. Medical is done. Will I get revised counterfoil? I'm not sure what kind of application you're talking about, but if you're talking about study permit, then it will not be a new counterfoil. It will be the same counterfoil, but it will be made valid for you to travel. So counterfoil is not reissued in such case. My brother is a permanent resident, has a PR card. Does he need some kind of sticker visa in his passport, the PR card, to be able to travel to India and then come back to Canada? No. If your brother is a permanent resident, your brother has a PR card, then the PR card itself is the document that allows him to travel back to Canada. Of course, in accompanied with the passport. So that's all he needs to travel back to Canada. There is no problem. I got twice study visa rejection. Should I mention in the Express Entry profile, or when should I mention this? You don't mention about your refusals or rejections in the Express Entry profile. You will mention this after you have received an ITA, or if you're applying through the PNP, when you're completing your PR application. At that point of time, it will categorically and specifically ask you, have you been refused a visa in the past? At that point of time, so you will say yes, and you will mention the application number and the details surrounding the refusal. Fastest way to update IRCC about PR card delivery addresses. Well, at this point of time, there are no such things as fastest way. All you will do is, and the only way is to update them either through the web form, or second is that there is a change of address form that's also available on IRCC. You can use that. In some cases, you might be able to call IRCC and have them update the address, but that depends on the agent who's taking your call. I won't rely on that too much, but yeah, web form is the best way to go about it. I have 5 years of continuous work experience in a single knock. I am not working for the past 6 months to upskill myself. Would this period of unemployment create an issue in my profile? Absolutely not. There's no problem with it. You have 5 years of continuous work experience. You can use that for eligibility. You can use that for CRS code. There is no problem at all. Can you land, get PR, and return to your home country to tie any loose ends? You can tie as many loose ends and you can tie as many knots. There is no problem. Once you become a permanent resident of Canada, there are no restrictions on you, on your travel. You are absolutely free to travel. You can travel the same day, the same hour. You can get out of the airport, take the escalator up to the departures lounge, and take the flight out and travel. There is absolutely no problem at all. How much time before classes can a person come to Canada? 1.5 months? No, absolutely not. Because if you try to come too early to Canada, you will have a difficult time explaining to the visa officer, why are you coming to Canada early? The purpose of your visit to Canada is to study, and you coming 1.5 months earlier than the start of your study program raises flags for the visa officer. So don't try to come to Canada earlier, or rather earlier than 4 weeks. 4 weeks is all right. You can say 4 weeks because you want to look for accommodation, you want to acclimatize yourself, you want to be familiar with the place, you want to know how things work. 4 weeks is all right, but 1.5 months is a bit too much. I'm not saying you will not be allowed at all. It depends entirely on the border officer who is going to be making that decision. But it can most certainly raise some concerns, and you might be asked a lot of questions. One of them would be, how are you going to pay for yourself? You cannot work. You cannot say you will work because you cannot work. You cannot work until you start studying, at least for the part-time 20 hours a week. So that could become an issue. Can I apply for a visit visa when spouse is on maintained status awaiting postgraduate work permit approval? Does maintained status impact my visit visa decision? No, so first of all, I'm not sure what exactly. So can I apply for a visit visa when spouse? So whose visit visa are you applying for? I mean, are you applying for yourself? Are you applying for the spouse? Spouses are, yeah, I mean, if you're just asking as to whether your spouse can invite you because your spouse is in Canada and you're outside, yes, there is no problem. So if you want to apply for your visit visa, your spouse is in Canada and your spouse is on a maintained status, can they invite you? Yes, they can invite you. There's no problem with that. I have a valid work permit and a work visa until 2023. Can I apply for a visitor visa now to get more months to stay in case I don't get selected in EE? Okay. First of all, your visit visa, rather your TRV, if you're going to apply, that allows you to go in and out of Canada. Okay, that's all it does. It allows you to re-enter Canada if you're leaving Canada. If that is expiring and you wish to apply for it again, well, it all depends whether you have a work permit or a study permit at this point of time, based on which IRCC may give you a new validity for your TRV. Once your work permit expires, just because you have a visit visa does not mean your status has changed to a visitor. There is a huge difference between a status of a visitor or having a TRV. Just by having a TRV or just by applying for a TRV does not change your status. If you are a worker, you need to change your status to a visitor or apply for a visitor record. Please don't make that mistake of thinking that your work permit is expired. Now, because you have a TRV or you will apply for TRV, you will automatically become a visitor. It doesn't work like that. You have to apply for a visitor record or change your status to a visitor. Any scope of 497 before December? Well, yes, I would most certainly think yes, 497 has a good chance before December, but we have to only wait and see how gradually does the draw sizes increase. How many hours per week should be mentioned in the reference letter? As the hours per week are variable every month, should the reference letter mention maximum or average? Well, the reference letters can mention an average, but in that case, what you should do is you should provide a supplement to that from your side, prepare an Excel sheet, provide for each week how many hours were you working, because IRCC will need to make sure that your total period of work is calculated accordingly. Medical done in 2022, no update. Can I go for mandamus? Your AOR is September 2020. Yeah, you can. It's been it's been less than 2 years. I would say wait for 2 years at least, and then try and think of going for mandamus. I just moved from US to Ontario via ICT. My express entry score is 475. Any chances with Ontario score 39? Well, Ontario score 39 is a possibility. It has happened in the past. But first, you should make sure, is your employer willing to support your Ontario PNP application? Remedicals are done. Will I get a revised counterfoil? I would just answer that question, I think. For PNP or express entry, does our education in employment requirements of the NOC code matter? If it says high school, then do we need high school as a minimum? If we don't, will it be refused? Now, it's different for PNP. It is different for express entry. For express entry, if your education does not match your work experience, that's absolutely fine. It will not make any problems. It will not create any issues in your application. You do not need to comply with the employment requirements in the NOC code. But for PNP, it's a different ballgame. Some PNPs, for example, Saskatchewan, and also now Nova Scotia, also New Brunswick, are also now looking for your work experience to match with your field of education. If you don't, then it could become a problem. For example, for Saskatchewan, you are absolutely ineligible if your work experience and your field of education does not match. My medicals are expiring on the 4th of October. I will file for postgraduate by 14th of October. Do you suggest I do an upfront medical exam before filing for postgraduate? No, you don't need to. If you wish to, you can, but you don't need to. How much does it cost to become an immigration consultant in Canada? Are there any job opportunities after being licensed by CICC? Wow, okay, I never thought of it like this. Okay, good question to start with. I'm not sure how many of you out there are looking for career as an immigration consultant, but let's take this one. First of all, the cost of becoming an immigration consultant. First thing that you need to do is you need to have a minimum of bachelor's degree. After that, you need to enroll yourself under the immigration, or rather, you have to enroll yourself for the immigration diploma program, which is now being offered by one college in Quebec. I don't remember which one it is, but the other college which is offering the program in English, and the only other college which is offering the program in English is Queen's College. I understand that the fee for this program is about $12,000. I'm not sure, but you can go on to the Queen's College website and you can check. You will also need to secure CLB 9. That is also a requirement. Now, in addition to that, once you have completed your diploma program, which I think is between 12 to 18 months, you will then also have to intern with somebody. Uh, I'm not aware of these criteria because I obviously cleared mine earlier, and Queen's College was not the criteria. But now Queen's College is the criteria, and their program definitely is much more intensive, much more detailed. I have a few books over here. Let's see if I can pull this up. That's one. That's two. Yeah, at least a couple of books here that I have been also been reading, and these are part of the curriculum from Queen's College for the IRCC's immigration program. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I will obviously read whatever I can. But the Queen's College has a much more detailed program, and after you complete that, you will then be able to appear for the examination with the CICC. Okay, and you have to pay obviously a fee for CICC's examination. I think it's about 500, 400 and some dollars. I don't remember exactly. You can, again, all this information is available on the CICC website as well. After you have paid the fee, you've appeared for your CLB 9, you have your diploma, copies of your transcript and your diploma, you will be able to appear for this. Now, the thing is, the examination can be quite difficult, to be very honest. Thankfully, I passed the first time, but there are a lot of people who struggle to pass the first time. They can take a few attempts to pass, and every single time you will have to pay the fee for the exam. After you pass the exam, you will get your license, and you can then practice as an immigration consultant. The annual fee for CICC is roughly $2,000, little less, but about $2,000 per year, which you have to pay. In addition to that, you have to also complete 16 hours of continuing CPD programs, continuing progressive development programs, or education or courses for yourself to keep yourself up to date. And yeah, there are no guarantees you will find a job, because what happens is, in the field of immigration, everybody, or rather most of the people, are operating or managing their businesses as sole proprietors, or as companies where they don't necessarily want to hire other immigration consultants. Why? Because, for example, they don't want to share their business secrets. They don't want to share their business inside, how they have developed their practice, and they don't want to share their news. But different people operated in a different manner. But that's the lookout. Keep in mind, there are nearly 8 to 10,000 immigration consultants who are licensed. Not everybody is practicing in an active manner, but they are. In addition to that, there are also immigration lawyers, and then there are paralegals who are all licensed to sort of provide immigration advice and services. In addition to that, your competition is not going to be from the immigration lawyers and consultants. It's going to be from all the unscrupulous and illegal agents and illegal consultants who are sitting in all over the world, who are trying to give them, project themselves as consultants, and who give fake, who wouldn't say fake, but who give incorrect and illegal advice sometimes, which leads to a lot of problems. So all of this is part of becoming an immigration consultant. But as far as the job opportunities are concerned, you can find, I'm not saying you cannot find, or you will not be able to find. There are always somebody who's looking to hire an immigration consultant. Colleges do, some community centers do, some NGOs do, some corporates also do, some immigration law firms do, some other immigration consultants do. For example, we have about 4 RCICs who are working with us, and we are looking to hire 2 more. So our team is growing as well. So we obviously recruit, or rather we employ other immigration consultants, but I'm sure there are a lot of others as well. Are the new tiers arranged based on demand? For example, tier one is more in demand than tier two or three. Thank you for your sessions. Very informative. No, the tiers have got absolutely nothing to do with demand. Tiers is just a classification on different knock codes based on different occupations and the different background of those. For example, sales is different than manufacturing, is different than trade, is different than information technology, is different than broadcasting and services. So these are different kind of occupations that have been classified as per that. So tier one, tier two, tier three basically is depending on how much education or work experience or training may be required in each of these occupations. And that's how the classification has happened. It will not change the demand in any manner. It will not say that tier one is more in demand than tier three, or tier three is less demand or more demand than tier four or tier five. So these are just classifications. That's just about it. Got PR. Well, congratulations if you did. Excellent. Hope to see you in Canada sometime soon. Is it worth to give IELTS again an increased score to 481 because the game of CRS will, after all, won't last for long? Well, I'm not sure what you mean by the game of CRS will not last for long. I'm not sure if you are you saying that the CRS scores will come below 480, or are you saying that there will be no CRS scores at all? So I'm not sure what you're trying to say. But yes, in my opinion, retaking IELTS is definitely worth it. If your scores can be pushed up higher, then it will always be of some advantage to you. Spouse open work permit request is refused during flag polling. Will that affect my online spouse open work permit application? Do they keep a record of all flag polling attempts? Can we try to flag poll at the same or the other border? Well, first of all, I don't know what is the reason for the refusal of your flag polling attempt. So very difficult to say what it is. I'm not sure what the visa officer told you. Why did they refuse? Did they make any observations? But yes, you can definitely apply for an online spousal open work permit if at all you are eligible. Score distribution will change again after the Saskatchewan invitation. Well, the score distribution of CRS has got nothing to do with the invitations. Invitations are just invitations. People still have to apply. People still have to be processed. People still have to be nominated. Once they get nominated, then they come into the express entry pool, and that is when the score distribution will change. Okay, we will take some questions here. Oh, we did this. I applied for fake extension in February 2022. I got my interim letter yesterday. I'm expecting a rejection letter soon. Should I apply for the new public policy before rejection along with the status of restoration? Well, you can, but considering you are still on an implied status, so you should be able to apply. But in my opinion, again, it's your choice whether you do it or not. I would apply for restoration regardless. It's a matter of $200, but it sort of takes away that headache of again having to reapply if my application is not considered as valid and that there was a requirement for restoration. So I would definitely recommend applying for restoration as part of your application. Okay, I read in CIC news that provinces are looking to get control over their immigration program the same way Quebec does. Do you think this is the reason why Ontario is not conducting a lot of draws? No, I don't think this is the reason. There has been a conference of the premiers of different provinces, which is an annual thing where they discuss about different things with the federal government. And this year, one of the big things has been to ask about more control, more autonomy over their immigration programs, and federal government to an extent has accepted certain aspects of their request, not necessarily to say that we will let you completely handle your own immigration programs, but basically to say that the processing times will reduce because they will try and accept the nominations and that the processing for the work experience and for processing for the criteria has already been done. But the details of that has to come out. But no, if your question is this the reason why Ontario is not conducting a draws? Well, no, I don't think this is the reason because there is no connection between the two. After a year, I got a message in my profile asking for a medical test. I completed that. Now I've got another message for a medical test with IMM 1017. Do I have to retake the test? No, you don't have to retake the test. Just raise a web form, inform IRCC with your medical information form, and hopefully they should be able to amend it. Nothing there. Which new language tests for French are planned to be acceptable according to the CIC news? First of all, it does not say which. I mean, first of all, yes, there is a news that a new language test has been approved. It doesn't say whether it is for English or for French. It doesn't say which test has been approved. So CIC news just mentioned to everybody, yeah, okay, there is a new language test has been approved, but that news means nothing until we know which language and what is the test. I mean, what does it mean? New language test approved, but which language test? We don't know. Which language? We don't know. So yeah, nothing there. My score is 499. I got Alberta invitation. Should I go for that or I wait for express entry? Well, in my opinion, just go for it, because a bird in hand is so much more better than two in the bush, because the birds in the bush you might never ever get. And the way express entry draws are going, you might very well be in Canada before your nomination happens. And you have the invitation, right? So for example, you have the invitation. Proceed with your invitation, get the nomination done. It might take them 2 months, 3 months. In the meantime, if the scores are coming down, if the scores really dropped, and you think 499 is a big, huge possibility there, then refuse the nomination and go with the express entry. But in the meantime, don't let go of your invitation in Alberta. Divan Patel says, my postgraduate work permit expires in November. I got a mail for extension. My address is wrong. It says write opt out in the subject line of the email. Does this mean I don't accept offer or opt out from round one and get it in round two? Well, you can opt out and you can mention in the response to your email address that your address has changed and request them to update the address. And then you should be able to get your work permit in the round two. I think IRCC has already explained this in detail. That everything is mentioned on their website. Just try and read through this very, very slowly and carefully. You will get the answers. It's not very difficult at all. If your address is changing, simply opt out from the first round of extension so that they don't send your work permit to your old address. Okay. I am a graphic designer by profession. Is it a good idea to submit a portfolio of work in addition to the experience letter and payslips? Well, you can, but it doesn't have any relevance or any value in the application. There is an error in West report. Year of degree award is wrong. It should be 2014. It is 2013. I have to submit post ITA app. What should I do? You can submit your application with an explanation. Meantime, also contact WES. Ask them to update it or ask them to correct it. And once they send you the new one, you can use that to send it to IRCC. After getting port of entry letter of introduction for startup visa work permit, can I first land in Canada after 4 months? Yeah, you can land in Canada for as long as your work permit is valid. Would you advise someone who can score a maximum 470 points to give IELTS now, or should I wait for 1 year till the scores come down and then give IELTS? Well, how do you know the scores will come down? So yeah, you should get into the pool as soon as you can. Don't wait for anything. My wife added my name in her PR application, but we did not get any update. Can you tell me the timeline? No, I cannot tell you timeline because I don't even know where your application is, what kind of application it is, what is exactly going on with your application. So I can't tell you anything at all. There is no way to sort of give you any timelines. If there is no update, then simply raise another web form and check with IRCC. You can also call them and ask them what's going on. Okay, which visa base we can try? I don't know what you mean by that. When our two applications are in process, work permit and RNIP, if results from work permit comes first, would we travel on work visa? Should we wait for PR result? It's entirely up to you. If you get an approval for work permit, come to Canada, start working because you have a work permit. In the meantime, you can continue to wait for your PR application to be approved and then get your status changed to permanent resident once that gets approved. For Saskatchewan application, in case where stock account is used for proof of fund, do you know how the minimum account amount required for proof of fund will be calculated, considering stock can go up or down? Well, good question. So the idea would be always make sure that even if the stock is going down, even for that period of time, the amount of total proof of funds availability is still more than the required amount. When you use your stock as the proof of funds, that is always a very dodgy and a dicey thing to do. I would recommend not to do that. So when you give your statement of accounts to Saskatchewan, they will be looking at the minimum at any point of time. And the minimum at any point of time over the last 3 months, when you submit your application, goes below the required proof of funds, then your application goes into the danger zone. And Saskatchewan can also always come back and ask you for an updated proof of funds, and also then make sure that you have still been maintaining the funds to be more than the required amount. Can a program programmer travel abroad and work for a Canadian employer remotely for a few months, take paid leave for a few weeks, and still count it towards Canadian experience. So I'm not sure what you mean by travel abroad. You mean you are working in Canada, you're on a work permit, and then you're traveling outside Canada? Is that what you're saying? Well, first of all, the definition of Canadian work experience is work experience gained in Canada with a Canadian employer being paid in Canada. So in Canada is a big component. Now, if it was a matter of 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 year, 1 month, you are traveling on business, you are traveling for some work, that obviously still gets calculated. But if you are now, taking a long period of leave and you want to sort of go somewhere else and work from home, kind of work remotely, then I'm afraid that may not get accepted. Flight to Toronto has a layover of 3 hours in Montreal. Will I get my study permit in Montreal or Toronto? You will get your permit in Montreal. And if Montreal is 3 hour layover enough time for immigration checks and study permit issue, in most cases, yes, there should not be a problem with that. 3 hours is good. Chirag, thank you for the super chat. Nothing there, my friend. We applied for study permit along with spouse open work permit and kids visitor visa in April. Only study permit received in May. Until now, there is no movement on other two cases. We have raised several web forms. No response. Please suggest. Well, I would suggest that if you have your study permit approved, then you come to Canada and start your studies while the other two applications are being processed. Spouse open work permit, even if you applied together, there is no guarantee that it will be processed together. Spouse open work permit will be processed separately in its own due course of processing time, whatever it might be at the time when it is, or wherever it is being processed. At least 5 to 7 people I know did not receive interim. What is the logic behind this measure? Ircc agents say nonsense. Well, first of all, 93,000 people were affected by this whole public policy for postgraduate work permit. They said they will start from the 8th of August. They did not say we will send everything to everybody on the 8th of August. So I think it's a matter of time. They would be, you can expect they will have some logistical issues. They're already having data privacy breach. They're already having some big issues with incorrect work permits being issued to wrong people in the wrong and being sent to wrong email addresses. So I think they have held it back for some time, trying to sort out those logisticals and technical issues, and they will start sending the interim work authorizations again. I don't think you have to worry about it. If you don't get it, then obviously apply for your extensions anyways. Is it necessary to submit payslips along with work reference letters? Well, it is not mandatory, and they can always ask you for it. But I always suggest that you provide your payslips, at least 12 payslips, at least for 1 year. Do provide it. It's not mandatory, but they can always ask for it. Do we need to apply for postgraduate work permit extension? If we have already applied for one to keep our status off after 13th of June, if you applied for a postgraduate work permit extension after 13th of June, and in that extension you did mention the public policy that has been announced and that they're only working out. If you gave reference to the 13th of June, if you gave reference to the public policy that is being announced, then there is a possibility they will extend it using that extension. Otherwise, you should apply for it again. I've applied for an extension on 26th of July since my postgraduate work permit expired on the 29th of July. I'm eligible for extension on LOE. I don't know what you mean by LOE. Should I apply for genuine extension with restoration? Considering you are in an implied status, you can. I would have added restoration. I just explained earlier because there are two ways to look at it, right? So if your this application is refused, then you are on an implied status, which is a valid status. Therefore, you don't need to apply for restoration. But if it is rejected because it was ineligible in the first place, it was considered as incomplete, then in that case, you lose your status from the day you submitted your application or from the day your previous work permit expired. And in such cases, restoration is required. And because you do not know which way the decision is going to be, is it going to be rejected or is it going to be refused? Therefore, my recommendation is to add the restoration, but the decision is absolutely yours. Is it true that the Bill C-19 is beneficial only for inlanders? If not, should we wait for the implementation of the bill or should we follow the study rule? Well, how can we say who is it beneficial for and who is it not beneficial for? Because we don't even know how they will be implementing it, what kind of draws they will be doing, what kind of categories they will be conducting. There is no way to say anything. So my recommendation would be to wait. I have applied for visitor visa. Currently, residence in UK, almost 1.5 month gone. No bill issued in profile. Yeah, well, just wait for it. Once they will issue your biometric request, they will let you know. Would you advise someone who can score max? We just answered that. Husband not cooperating with PCC and he is non accompanying too. He is vanished since I asked for mutual divorce. Can I request IRCC to grant PR on humanitarian and compassionate grounds? Well, you can most certainly explain and give all the information, give all the details, provide as much explanation as possible, provide an affidavit saying you will not sponsor your spouse. Uh, from your lawyer, get a legal opinion in India as to what law says and what can be done. Uh, File the divorce anyways, provide all these documentation, and then wait for IRCC for their discretion, their decision as to how they will proceed with this. Got PPR request without spouse and child added. My agent want me to submit passports of all three along with IRCC fiat document. Your opinion, what should I do? My opinion is, first of all, stay away from agents of this type who just tell you, just submit all the three passports. On what basis? Your spouse and your children were not accompanying in your application. They were not added in your application. On what basis are you sending their passports to IRCC and creating a further mess? Just by sending the IRCC fee and saying, okay, there are documents, add my spouse and children. I mean, you think, what do you think? This is some sort of, yeah, I mean, ask the agent, like, how did you even become a person who deals with Canadian immigration? Yeah, in my opinion, but it's not opinion. That is the way to do it. You inform IRCC about your change of family composition. You inform IRCC you want to add your spouse and your child. And until that is done, don't send your spouses and your children's passport. Just send yours for the time being. Get yours stamped. Let it come back. In the meantime, keep following IRCC through the web form. And then once that has been done, then you send all their passports and yours back, or rather, just send your and their children's and your spouse's passport for stamping. Ridiculous agents. I do not know how you find them, and I do not know who this agent is, but if you are listening, then yeah, whatever. Got an IT under EEBCC, EEBC. I've changed my job and have to join from 15 this month. Do I need to update new job details while updating the details for nomination? I am not sure what the question is. Update who and update what? But if there is a requirement to update, then you are better off updating than not updating at all. No letterhead on reference letter, but provided sufficient proof along with HR denial, mail, and LOE. My file is in review. What should I do? Well, first of all, I do not know what your file is in review for. And if it was not on a letterhead, then who signed it, under what capacity? But if you have provided sufficient explanation, you have provided all the documents, you have provided all the related documents, you have provided all the proof that you were employed, and you have obviously, you said, provided the HR denial email, then you should be fine. I mean, then there is nothing else to be done. Is it necessary to mention job details of the accompanying spouse while creating express entry profile? Can I just leave them blank and provide all the details after ID and the personal history? Yes, you can. There is no problem with that because you're not getting any points for it. In connection to the previous question, I do not know what the previous question was. Should I write about this WES error in LOE after getting new report, or should I upload this via web form? Well, if you are submitting your application and there is a problem with your WES report, then yes, definitely explain it. Also contact WES, also ask them to make the changes. Sometimes before you submit your application, ask WES to make the changes. Sometimes they can make the changes pretty quickly, probably in a couple of days or a week. So if they make the change, then you don't have to do anything. But yes, if you need to explain, then definitely explain it. 436 score now, shall I apply for work permit or just I wait for EE draw? Well, if you're eligible for work permit, most definitely apply for work permit. 436 is not getting called an express entry at all. So forget about express entry for 436. If you can apply for work permit, definitely apply for it. For a regular visit visa for parents whose earlier visa has expired, is an invitation letter from my side mandatory as I've just got PR, or can they apply without it? And if mandatory, what exactly should be mentioned? I'm not sure what you mean by can they apply without it. I mean, you are a permanent resident. By all means, add a letter of invitation saying that they want to come and visit you. There is no problem with it. Can I travel back to Canada under an ETA with the intent to visit family while I'm waiting for a approval of my application for the postgraduate work permit extension policy? I have lived 80 days after postgraduate work permit expired. Yes, if you're eligible for an ETA, absolutely come to Canada with an ETA, and you can do that. There is no problem with that. We did this. Okay, similar questions. My spouse open work permit is in process. I'm in Canada on a visit visa, and IRCC asked for re-medical. I did that in Canada, and it is required further observation. IRCC gave me further 3 months. Not able to meet specialist as there is a waiting period of 1 month. Should I wait and go for medicals in Canada or go back to India for re-medical again? That is absolutely entirely your choice. I can't tell you what to do. If you cannot wait, then go back to India. If you can wait, then complete your medicals here itself. So even if a maintained status fake extension is refused, when we will stay in status while waiting, then we will stay in status while waiting for postgraduate work permit extension. Noted. I have absolutely no idea what you're trying to ask me. If your previous application is refused and you are on a maintained status, so you basically means you are no longer in status, you don't have a status. If you're applying for work permit extension, apply for restoration, please. All right, still a lot of questions coming through. Obviously, I will not be able to answer all the questions that have come through. Please post them in the comments after this video, and I will be happy to answer them at a later time. Thank you so much for joining in. It was lovely talking to you again, lovely answering those questions. Take care and see you next time.